Jeb Neo here, and this is the second episode of Notes on Neo. Not just another band from Scotland. So this is all about Pallas. And here's an article I wrote some years ago. Let me find it. Look around. Here it is. From Progression Magazine. How's it called? Pallas arrives in the new millennium, still alive. Veteran Scottish Neoprogressive studying survival and determination by me, Captain Neo. So put that there. And of course, like many of the Neoprog bands, were out gigging and recording and things like that before they ever actually got to recording. And they started out playing. It was like a Palmer and yes, and Genesis and things from the original OG progressive bands, recording their own music, and they released some cassettes and some vinyl and that. And luckily, in 99, this is from '99, they released this. Put that out, which is the music from the early days, which includes an early version of Arrive Alive, along with some of the songs that ended up later on, like Crown of Thorns, Hammer Falls, and of course The Ripper, more about that later. And this is with the band that composed of Ewan Lowson, Graham Murray, Neil Mathewson, Ronnie Brown, and Derek Foreman on the drums. And this is recorded live in Scotland and at the Cave Studios in Glasgow. So these are some of the songs that they did prior to the release of their first album, which would be The Sentinel, which again, there's a great story with that. It seems to be the band was supposed to be signed by AMI on the coattails of Marillion, who was a band that they worked with. Marillion was big in England and not in Scotland, and they used to team up and play. Pallas would headline in Scotland, Marillion headlined in England, and they would do shows together. But when they got around, EMI was supposed to sign them, and then they didn't. So they kind of self-funded the recording of this. They journeyed to Atlanta, Georgia to meet with famed prog producer Eddie Olford, who did, of course, Yes and ELP, at his studio. And they recorded all this and released the album on vinyl, which was not the whole album, the whole concept. The whole concept was missing the whole Atlantis suite. But luckily they were able to, by 2000, this came out in 2000, put together the whole concept with the original order, which did not have Arrive Alive as the first track, which the vinyl did. I have the vinyl also. And all of it was on here, but they released several 12 inches that completed the concept. Now things get strange. Ewan Lowson leaves the band, so now they're searching for a singer to fill in, so they tap Abel Gantz's lead singer Alan Reed, and they first record kind of an EP before they do the Wedge. Wedge will be the second album, but they do an EP of 3 songs, Stranger, Sanctuary, and Nightmare, which are included on the CD here. I have the vinyl also. Definitely still on EMI. This is on Inside Out. On EMI, but at the time, between the first album, The Sentinel, and this, the people that were the ones that championed them on the label were either fired or quit or whatever, they left, so there was really no promotion on this, so the band kind of faded away for a while. They did do some videos for The Sentinel, but didn't really do much. The band kind of goes into hibernation for a while, although they do record one song in '91 for the SI Music Sampler from Holland, the label from Holland. All the rest of these are all a bunch of neo-prog bands, called War of Words, with Mike Stabi on keyboards and Ronnie written by Alan and Neil and Mike, I think, it says on here. Great song. Only appears on this as far as I know. I don't know if they ever did it live. When I saw them, they didn't do it live. So like I say, they go into hibernation for a while until about 98. So it's quite a while. They reform and record Beat the Drum here. And not soon after that, I get to see them for the first time at Baja Prod. They play, I believe it was 2000 when they play in Baja. And I had already written this article for Progression before that, so I was familiar with the band through emails and stuff. This goes back so far, you know, we're thinking, you know, when was the internet fully formed? They play Baja, and I get to go there. I traveled. That was the first time I went to Baja. I think it was Jadis and Pallas got me there. There were some other bands also, but those are the ones I liked. I get to see them again in London, and I think it was 2003. So Crossing the Crucible is the next album that comes out. And this is 2001. So they already had made this, and they do get to play. They play Sanctuary in London. That's the only time I get to see them play that song. I think it's a great song. They're back with the Crossing the Crucible, and like I told Al, I think they kind of a little heavier on this one than the previous ones. Another great album. Celebration, great song. For the Greater Glory also. And so like I said, then they play Progeny in London. You go to London to see that. It was not only them, but it was Magenta and Pendragon and an IQ acoustic set. There was some other bands there. Enid, I think, played also. First Progeny, 2003. But then they also release Dreams of Men, which is 05, so I would see them again in 03, and then again in 04 at Nearfest. So it'd be before this album came out. They played Nearfest back, and this is when it got back to Lehigh in Pennsylvania after the 2 times in Trenton. And they play Nearfest. And then the last time I see them is 06-07 when they play at Rossfest. And I have some interviews with them from that. Of Alan, I think, interviewed with me. I put that up because I did a couple of short documentaries from like 05, 06, and 07, I think, from Rossfest. I wanted to bring up this. In 06, they play at Rossfest, and the big surprise is Ewan Lowson comes back, and they pretty much do this show that they did here in Holland. And one of the big surprises is that Ewan comes back and does a couple of songs, but importantly does The Ripper fully laid out. This is kind of on his signature song that goes all the way back from before the Sentinel, and he does Cut and Run and The Ripper, and I got to see him there and meet him. Interesting guy. So they released this in 05, bonus disc on there, some remixes and stuff on there. Then they do 25 or XXV. This is from 2011. This is the follow-up to the Sentinel. There's a concept album here, 2011. So what happens is after this album here, Alan Reed leaves the band for logistic reasons, I know, because I know the rest of the bands are up in Aberdeen, Scotland, and he's working for the BBC in London. So they get a new singer. Paul Mackey is the singer, and they make this album, We Are Who We Are, here. And this was a crowd-funded project that I donated to, and then I kind of messed up on, I wanted the actual CD, but I ended up getting the download. I made a CD of it. I got the download of it. Listened to it recently, really good. Then the last album they made is The Messenger here, which was 2023. And from what I understand, they're in the project of making another album, even though the band's kind of spread out. Neil's living in Cambodia, and the rest of the band, I guess, is well, Alan's in London, and the other guys are up in Aberdeen. Also sent me this. This is a CD-ROM that includes a bunch of outtakes and remixes and some videos and stuff that they did for Scottish TV and stuff, that kind of fills in. And there's some songs on here that sometime in their kind of hiatus between the wedge and, well, actually between the wedge and Beat the Drum, I think. Here's Beat the Drum. And there's the wedge. They kind of did some AOR stuff, more poppy kind of stuff. There's a video up that Mike Stobby put up, What the Teacher Said, where he kind of cobbled together a montage of clips from the band of other songs with that song playing, What the Teacher Said. And it definitely has kind of a more AOR style to it. And there were some other songs on here that they're not complete. They're not even like really remixes there, or rough mixes really, of some other songs that they did in between time before the band totally got back together for Beat the Drum. From what I understand, they got a new album coming, tentatively titled Song of Tomorrow.